Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of our Sunderland Mind No Filters podcast. In celebration of turning 50, we are launching a special series of podcasts across the year highlighting how both Sunderland Mind and people's attitudes to mental health have changed over the last 50 years. Each episode we will be encouraging people to share their story and reflect on their experiences. In our second episode, we speak to Jean Walker, our Counselling Clinical Co-ordinator, who tells the story of how she first joined Sunderland Mind over 18 years ago. She also speaks on the work involved in getting counselling established within the service, as well as how this offer has changed over the years. Hi Jean, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming along today. Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
So I'm Jean Walker. I started as our Counselling Coordinator and now I'm our Counselling Clinical Co-ordinator with the service.
Wonderful. So how did you get into counselling, Jane?
I worked with people generally. I was a hairdresser and working with people every day, you listen to what they're saying and they work things out as they're talking to you and I just thought I really like that. Did that as a career for a long time and then thought I want to do something that's a little bit more rewarding. So I connected quite a few of the interests that I had with working with people and decided to try the counselling course. So I went and did the introduction to counselling with the Women's Centre in Sunderland, which was fab. And I just immediately got hooked from there and carried on, went and did the next one and the next one. And worked my way up to the diploma course and really liked that. And just it was just something I knew I was really passionate about. I wanted to do it and just loved that concept of when people are at probably their worst time in their lives or having something happening that they can't resolve themselves. I would be the person that would sit with them and just help them through that. So that just was a reward in itself.
Was it like a long process? Or?
I did 5 years. I trained for 5 years because I wanted to add other things into it. And I did a year's bereavement course as well on top of my other course. Then I continued after that and did my supervision course and did a coaching course after that just because I wanted to add that on my CV really.
Perfect. I didn't know you did coaching stuff as well.
Yeah, I think it's a nice dynamic. I think now people, even though counselling's a real buzzword and people love counselling, sometimes people just need some direction. So the coaching's really handy, and because we're a limited intervention service, it works really well just to give them some goals to aim to and just for where they're at.
So what brought you to Sunderland Mind?
So as we sort of worked our way through the course, you had to start and look for 2 placements. And as I was looking for placements, I just kept coming back to just wanting to do one placement with Sunderland Mind. Just simply because I had a real interest in mental health. I'd had, a background with mental health I just had a real interest in that. So my tutor said, right, just go along, have the interview, let's see how it goes, but I prefer you to have the 2. But actually when I came along, had my interview, it was a really busy day, it was in our old building in Norfolk Street, and it was really busy, and when I first walked in I thought, there's loads going on in here, I'm not sure about this. But I just knew straight away, I just loved it. It was just lovely, the people were lovely. Who was then to become my supervisor was just lovely, really supportive. So I loved it. Started to do my volunteering, so I had to do 120 hours voluntary work, which was working with clients one-to-one. And it's like a bit scary when you get to that point because it's now like you're on your own, you've got to do it. But it just, I just loved it, and I stayed and did other things. I helped on reception and I helped with other things within the building, and just found that I loved being around the area, and just really liked helping the people that came to the service.
So what sort of services and things did you deliver when you sort of first came? Was it just the one-to-one counselling? I know you said you helped on other things.
Yeah, so we did have like a daily drop-in where people went into that. and I would go down and help just in that if there was short staff, just serving refreshments and talking to people. But my role was just to do clinical hours. So when I first came in, the counselling service wasn't established.
Oh, right, okay.
So my supervisor, she'd worked for National Mind and decided to just put her hat down at one place and start to work at Sunderland Mind, and it was something she really was passionate about doing. So it was really introduction at that stage. It was, I think they had another girl who was working within the prison setting, and then me that was working at Sunderland Mind. So that was just the start of the service.
Oh wow! So counselling was literally just
So it wasn't something that was already established at that time. So as I came to the end of my voluntary hours, one day that my supervisor and Dot asked us if I could stay back, and I thought, oh, what have I done wrong here? And I remember going up the dining room, and they had this flip chart with all this writing on this flow chart and bubbles and everything, and they said, we want to offer you a job and you would be initially setting up the counselling service. So it was a huge achievement. Looked at all the things that was involved in my role and thought, I don't know if I can do all that, but let's just roll with it. So I was dead excited from that point. So we started then to recruit a few volunteers who were in the same position I'd originally been in, coming in from college wanting placement hours, and it just went from there.
What a thing to be doing so early in your counselling career as well.
Very much. I think I was the only one from my course that would get a job anyway, but to be given a role that was to establish a service was massive. But I was really well supported, and I probably had no fear at the time about it, just because I knew I was well supported, and I knew it was something that I really wanted to do.
So how did the counselling get established then in the city? So
we were taking we'd gotten a small funding bid, so we were taking some clients in who had just come into our service. And then one day I'd had to go to see my GP, and at the time we all had these mind satchels, which were given to Dot when she went to the conference in London. And when I'd gone in to see my GP, I'd sort of seen him for what I was going for, and he'd looked at me bag and he said, are you not hairdressing anymore? And I said, oh no, I'm not hairdressing now. And I sat and told him all this story about how I was a counsellor, and I loved it, and one thing and another. And we had a serious conversation about how people who couldn't afford a private service could really have sessions with our service. So he said to leave it with him. He spoke to the doctor that was head of our surgery, and they asked us to go in and do a talk about counselling and how it would benefit people, because it's a service not everybody can afford. So I went in and did that. It was quite nerve-wracking, but I was confident in my subject, so I was fine. And they went and they got some funding. I did some voluntary work for my GP surgery, just so we could see how it worked, and it just lifted off the ground. So then it was going bigger then, so Janice and Dot had to sort of intervene and look for more funding, and other services was involved, and that's how our partnership was made with the other two services. So it worked really well.
So, in the timescale of things, how long ago are we talking that this all sort of started?
Well, I did it just over a year's voluntary work, and I've been in my paid role, I think, about 16 years now.
Wow. So
it's quite a while ago since that started. It's a good few years ago since we started that.
So how, across sort of those 16, 17 years then, how has the counselling offer changed as you've progressed?
I think it's, even though as a service we always put our clients first, we always, and I think that's across all of our service, we're very much people. But it does change, funding changes, there's more requirements for funding, there's more there's more need out there for counselling, so there's more people. When I first started, we had less male clients than we had female. We had lots of female clients. But actually now, which is fantastic, more men come forward and talk about their mental health, which is just great for us because they know they've got that open space to do that. Very confidentially, but they've got that space in the counselling arena to be able to do that. So it's changed massively. I think people are much more open now to talk about the problems. And I think whereas at one time people would say, oh, I'll just get on with it, I'm fine, I'll just get on with it. But now they know the services out there to help them. They're able to move forward and go for that. So then now we've progressed to be part of Sunderland Psychological Wellbeing Services counselling and work in partnership with them, and that's great because it just gives us more support really.
How does it give you more support working in partnership with other organisations?
I think we all look after each other really. We all, you know, if we need to refer a client back because we've done our part of the role, it's a very smooth pathway to refer them back to that service or the other two services we're in partnership with. Sometimes a client might say to us, you know, it's really difficult getting to Sunderland, can I go to one of the other services? And we do that, and they do the same for us because obviously it's costly for some of the transport and coming into our service.
Do you feel that the services that you offer in the counselling team reflect that change that you've seen through the people? So have you expanded in different ways to support them?
It's personal, personally as counsellors, we've had we always have to keep our own personal development, meet the needs of what people bring now. Sort of when I first started counselling, things like hoarding and things weren't really something that we would work with, but now, even though it's not something that's in our actual criteria, sometimes it's part of where a client's at. So if we're dealing with the mental health side, that really helps them, and then somebody else would go and help with the practical side. But I think needs are very different now.
So what is part of our criteria for the counselling? What do we work with?
We are low level mental health, so we anxiety, depression, bereavement. We just the low level intervention, and then from that, if we feel like a client needs more, because of course what will happen is the client might refer in for anxiety or depression, but when they've referred in, the story's much bigger, and as they start to unfold that story becomes huge for them. And because we were a limited service, we were a limited intervention, we then would refer on to another service that could give some more support to that client. So it just that's how we work it really.
I think it just goes back to sort of the pathway and working in partnership with other people, doesn't it? To make
does.
sure the person gets the best support possible.
I think the services in Sunderland are brilliant. I think, we've got some great services within the city. And even our own service, some of our clients, just love coming along to some of our own groups because they've got a social interaction with people that's very much similar to themselves, which is great.
And I think that's what's so great about having both the counselling and the wellbeing team, that sort of we get quite a few times where a counsellor will pop in and be like, oh, have you got this group going on, or can I have the poster for this, and then you can refer. Sort of, we have a pathway internally as well, don't we?
Of course, and I think that's really important because we feel we can support in another way, and even though it's not ourselves, it's our groups and it's our team, and that's fab.
Do you you mentioned bereavement before? You've got groups and other things that you offer as part of the counselling team as well, haven't you?
Yeah, we've got 2 bereavement groups that run during the week, which just support around our first group on a Monday. That group's been running quite a few years, but they find that really supportive. They'll support each other different times of the years, where like Christmas and where they would be with the loved ones, or anniversaries. So they're very supportive of each other. And then we started a new group on a Wednesday afternoon just to capture people that couldn't attend that group, just so they had similar support.
Nice. And then you offer couples counselling as well, don't you, and different types of counselling?
We do. So we do couples counselling. I decided to take that as something that I wanted to really specialise in, because I had a real interest in working with couples. One day randomly, just in the early days of my work, and I was sort of put in a position where I'd gone in a room with a husband and wife.
Oh, wow.
And thought, this dynamic's a bit strange. It's like, I've not done this before. But actually it was fabulous. And even though it was the husband that was coming for the counselling, the wife just felt like she just needed to understand where he was at. And it just worked really well. So I went and studied for the couples counselling and got that qualification. So it's something we can offer as an additional service, along with some private counselling that we can do if people want to access that, because it's more flexible on times and stuff for them. Or we do anger management, which is just something that we do get quite a few referrals for, and I work with the anger management, and we see a huge range of dynamics in that. But I've got some fab clients, and I think it's another time where people are at a point in their lives where something's happened for them to be where they're at, and they just need some guidance. So it works very well.
Must be great to sort of go along that journey with them as well.
It is. I think the reward for us is, and you never tire of this in all the years I've done it. Every day you learn something from a client. But I think the other side of it is, the reward is the day they leave you and you know they're in a much better place. That's just huge. That you know that you've done your job, and that's what the whole point of it's been, because they're now on their own 2 feet. And sometimes clients think it's a bit scary, think, oh, I don't know if I'll maintain this or manage, but we give them the tools to do that, and it works really well.
It's great that the organisation has also that freedom, that you were able to have an interest in something and then go away and develop something from it.
Yeah, they were very keen for me to be able to do that, because it was something else that we could offer as a service.
So why do you think you've sort of stayed with Sunderland Mind all these years?
I think I've never tired of the role I do. I never tire from that. I love the role I do. I love working with clients. I think when I counted up my when I was doing my accreditation, I'd delivered over 14,000 hours of counselling.
Wow.
And that was like, I had to check my diaries loads of times to check them numbers were right. So I totally love my role. I'm part of a bigger team. Even though there's a counselling team, I'm part of a bigger team. I think we're like a family, really, and I think that's really good. When I started, obviously my supervisor's not here anymore, so I have external supervision. But when I started, obviously Dot was my manager, and then as Dot's retired and Trisha's took over, I've seen lots of different things, and she's brought a new dynamic to the service, but still kept that family feeling with us all, and I think that's just huge. I think if you don't tire of going to work, that's really important.
And I feel like it's a sort of place where you sort of get back what you put in, don't you? And it's great that like we all come together and support each other as a team as well.
Yeah, we do. We if you ever need to talk to anybody, there's always somebody that'll sit and listen to you, and that's really important. I think we need that, especially in the environment both the teams work in. I think some days we can have really complex days. So I think it's good to just be able to go and sit and just say, I need to chat. And that works really well.
Definitely. Have you noticed any changes across Mind as the organisation, Sunderland Mind, across the years while you've been here?
I think we've just grown. I think if we try to condense those services into where we used to be, it just would never work. The building, even though it was really sufficient and lovely, in a beautiful building in a nice area of Sunnyside, if we took all our services back up there, we just wouldn't fit anymore. We've just grown so much. There's so many things to offer and so much support in many different ways. I think we just couldn't do that.
I know, I feel like physically we wouldn't fit, and then we wouldn't have had the ability to expand all the different things that we offer.
Yeah, definitely. I think we have the space now to create groups, to be able to just work differently as a team, where before it was we were like sardines really, but it worked and it was fab, and the service got delivered. But yeah, we've definitely grown. I think that's really it's really important, and I've seen quite a few changes over the years, but positive changes and nice changes.
Where do you see sort of you and the team and everything moving forward?
I would like to think that our service would maybe expand a little bit more, and we maybe offer like different times of the day, be more sort of be able to offer a later appointment on a more regular basis, just have that flexibility. And as a team, I think everybody's passionate about counselling, everybody's passionate about what they're doing. That's really important. So I think we will just continue where we are.
Perfect. Do you have any final words, Jane?
No.
That's all right.
I think I've just, it's been a long journey for me, and I've done a lot of growing on the way. It's, there's been many changes, but I think I'm quite good at turning around quite quickly on new things. And I still continue to love coming into work and doing what I do.
But that's good though, and that's what you want, isn't it? Like you said before, you want to be able to come somewhere that you work and you feel like you're getting out what you put in, and being able to turn around and adapt so quickly, like you just said, you feel like you can, allows you the position to keep growing and keep growing as a team, keep growing as the clinical lead, and keep growing as an organisation too. Yeah,
I mean, I think we would love to offer more services, but it's down to funding, isn't it? We would love to do individual long-term bereavement work, or moving doing more therapeutic groups, but it comes down to funding. And I think where we can't provide the therapeutic groups, we provide them in other ways. The groups where people can go and feel safe within our service and learn a new skill, or be part of something else, and that's really good.
Well, thank you for coming along and joining us today, and thank you for sharing your experience of working with Sunderland Mind and all the changes that have happened.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you to Jane for taking part in our 50th anniversary series of Sunderland Mind No Filters, and thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed it. You can find us on Facebook at Mind Sunderland, or at www.sunderlandmind.co.uk. You can also find us on Instagram, YouTube and Twitter, as well as TikTok at Sunderland Mind. And don't forget to like and share this episode of the podcast. See you next time.